Mayor Allen, it is now 6:30. You may start the meeting when you're ready.
Thank you, Clerk Ainsworth. Good evening. We're in reduced numbers tonight as Councillor Moore and Deputy Mayor Coughlin have sent their regrets. They have other commitments they're attending. Can I have a mover, call a meeting to order with a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Maude Chapman, Councillor Cabral. The regular meeting of Council of the Township of Springwater of June 1st, 2022 come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Please be advised that meetings of council continue to be held electronically. Residents are provided with the following options to watch or listen to the council meetings. You can watch the meeting live on the township's website at www.springwater.ca, or you can listen to the meeting live from a telephone by calling 647-558-0588 and using the ID 854-0044-8161. This option is only available during the meeting. And for those who want to watch the live stream after the meeting, you can do that by watching the video on the township's YouTube channel. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest this evening, Council? Seeing none, we will move right into the public meeting. Can I have a mover and seconder to call the public meeting to order? Councillor Cabral, Councillor Hanna. That the public meeting of council held under Section 34 of the Planning Act for applications ZB 2022-004 regarding the Smith Brothers Farm Inc. be called to order at 6:31 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Welcome to this public meeting of Springwater Township Council held in compliance with Section 34 of the Planning Act to give the public an opportunity to express their views in regard to the proposed amendments to the Township of Springwater zoning bylaw as amended. The first part of the meeting is to present the amendment. Following that, the public will be given the opportunity to make oral submissions through the Zoom application. Any person wishing to make an oral submission must have notified the township prior to 8:30 a.m. this morning and must have been added to the commenters list. If a person or public body who files an appeal of a decision of the Township of Springwater in respect of a zoning bylaw amendment does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions to the township before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss all or part of the appeal. All comments or questions should be addressed through myself as chair. Oral submissions will be included in this meeting's minutes and form part of the public record, including the name and address of the speaker as information collected under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. The minutes of the meeting will be posted on the township's website. This public meeting deals with ZB 2022-004 by Smith Brothers Farms, Inc. for 1335 Floss Road 4 West. I now call upon the clerk to confirm notice of this meeting and the dates on which notice was given.
Notice of this public meeting was mailed on the 12th day of May, 2022 to the owner of the subject lands and to the assessed owners of 49 properties in the Township of Springwater within 240 meters of the area to which the proposed amendments would apply, and to all persons and public bodies as prescribed under the Planning Act and its regulations. Notice was posted at the assessed property to which the proposed amendment applies at a location that was visible from Floss Road 4 West. The notice was also placed on the township's website.
And has the planning department received any correspondence in response to the notice of the public meeting?
Correspondence was received from the Infrastructure and Operational Services Department in an email dated May 12th, 2022, and from resident Sarah Corbett in an email dated May 25th, 2022. The correspondence can be found attached to tonight's agenda.
Thank you. I will now call upon Patrick Towns from MHBC to give a presentation outlining the purpose and effect of the proposal. But before I do, I see Councillor Cabral's card up. Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I did receive the email regarding the comments being attached, but I don't seem to find them on this agenda, and I did link through. I'm wondering if everybody else has an agenda that shows the comments, or is it just me? Because if it is, I'll see if I can find another one.
Clerk Ainsworth? I think she's checking.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through you. The comments are the third link you will see under item 3.2. If you have the agenda open prior to the amendment, you might just need to refresh the web page.
What we'll do is, once the presentation is made, we'll review what the comments were and see whether everybody has had a chance to see them.
That would be fine, I guess, Mayor Allen. Thank you. I still don't see them, but I'll refresh.
Yeah, I think there's I ran into that problem too, Clerk Ainsworth. So Councillor Ritchie, you same thing?
No, I just wanted to comment that I have read them, and
Yeah.
I read them prior to clicking on for the agenda, but I have read it.
I think Councillor Cabral, if you go back in freshly, I don't know how you save the agendas, but if you go back in freshly through the portal and re-access the agenda, I think you'll probably find it populated then. Okay, Mr. Towns, proceed.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'm just trying to get my video going, but I seem to be blocked out. There we go. Thank you very much. And I'll just share my screen. Are you able to see my screen, Mayor Allen?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mayor Allen, members of council, and members of the public attending tonight's online meeting. I'm Patrick Towns from MHBC. I'm here presenting on behalf of the owner, Smith Brothers Farm. The application before you is a zoning bylaw amendment application. The meeting tonight is to cover off the legislative requirement for a public meeting under the Planning Act. This property is not new to council, and the proposal not entirely new to council. The applicants did obtain temporary use approvals in October of 2021. Those approvals were to operate a indoor baseball training facility on a temporary basis within 2 of the existing buildings on the property. As discussed initially at that meeting, the applicants are now coming back to council to apply for the permanent baseball training facility on the subject property. At present time, township staff have deemed the zoning bylaw application complete, and we understand staff are in the process of reviewing, and we are expecting comments, first review comments on the submission shortly. The property is generally located between Highway 27 to the west, Crosland Road to the east. It is just adjacent to Phelpston and comprised of approximately 100 acres in size. Of that 100 acres, approximately 17 acres are cleared and not forested. There is an existing dwelling which is serviced by private well and septic on the property. This slide, just for the benefit of anyone watching online tonight, this slide shows the property boundary in red. Phelpston, subdivision Phelpston sits just to the left of the red image. The forested lands contain environmental features, in this case on the subject property, and they're protected when it comes to provincial policy and local policy documents. In terms of the county of Simcoe official plan and the township official plan, the front area, the cleared portion of the subject property is designated rural. This proposed use is considered as a permitted use. It fits within what's referred to in the township official plan as a tourist and recreational use, and it's considered an other land use when read in the context of the county official plan. Then in terms of provincial planning documents, the proposed use is considered a rural land use, and these types of uses are compatible. So as long as they're compatible with surrounding adjacent land uses. So There were a number of studies required and submitted as part of the zoning bylaw amendment application to demonstrate compatibility with those surrounding land uses. Into the proposed zoning on the property, it's currently zoned agricultural. A site-specific amendment is proposed in this case. So it is to include the baseball training facility, indoor and outdoor, and it's to include a number of accessory uses, including but not limited to workout gym, change room, baseball diamond, and kitchen facilities. So although this type of use is permitted in the official plan, the zoning bylaw does not refer specifically to this type of use. So that's the reasoning for a new definition and a site-specific amendment in this case. So in addition to the existing buildings on the subject property, there is an addition proposed to one of the buildings. So the proposed zonings to include size limits to the overall buildings that are to be used in conjunction with the baseball training facility. So this will include an approximate total floor area of 7,500 square feet and a total gross floor area of 9,000 square feet. In order to provide efficient parking, it's proposed that there'll be between 60 and 70 parking spaces to accommodate patrons and whatnot. And also as a result of the forested area being protected due to the natural heritage features, all buildings and structures are required to be located at least 30 meters from the forested area. So this corresponds to initial pre-consultation with the county and township, and that forested area corresponds with the green lands designation in the county official plan, which is protected. So this slide shows the new proposed site layout. The existing buildings are highlighted in red, and the proposed addition and the baseball diamond are shown in green. So as mentioned previously, an addition to the rear of one of the existing buildings is proposed, and that's to accommodate a new batting tunnel. So the gym is to be used in conjunction with the baseball facility, as well as the new building. The other barn just to the right of the proposed new building is just a barn and just for storage. So overall, in terms of the site layout design, there's been an attempt to push the diamond back as far as possible from the road, Floss Road 4 West, and also to locate it close to the existing buildings. So what that does, it allows for greatest extent possible setbacks from residential properties. This is a direct view from Floss Road 4, just looking at the existing house, and then the buildings are in the left portion of this photo. In this slide, same as shown in the previous presentation, shows the gym. It's been updated through the permissions of the temporary use approval, I should say. The storage building remains, and then the batting tunnel building is where the proposed addition is proposed. Through pre-consultation, the township required a list of required technical studies and drawings that were to be submitted to form the complete application. The technical studies and the drawing have been submitted in this case to the township. And again, as mentioned, they're waiting for review at this time. So these studies were required in order to evaluate the potential land use impacts on surrounding properties and to demonstrate that the proposed use is compatible with surrounding land uses. Overall, the studies that were completed demonstrated that the proposed use is suitable for the subject property, including there's no impacts on surrounding land uses in terms of drainage, traffic, or noise. The public meeting that was conducted for the temporary use approval, it actually provided the project team with some initial concerns that were raised initially for the proposed use. The temporary use has provided the owners with an opportunity to operate, and there hasn't been any bylaw complaints, and it's provided information to us that we knew we needed to address at this stage for the actual zoning bylaw amendment. So in summary, there's no lights. The application does not result in the loss of viable agricultural lands due to the rural designation. The proposed building is going to be designed to fit into the rural character of the area. Hours of operation will be similar to those of standard businesses within the township. And again, the diamond and design location of the proposed buildings and diamonds have been situated with the adjacent land uses in mind. At the previous council meeting, we do understand council did have some questions. So this slide just shows some setbacks of the proposed diamond and the development. So in regards specifically to the 30-meter buffer from the forested lands, this was required due to the comments again from the County of Simcoe to ensure at least 30 meters setback was included for buildings and structures. So it's not necessarily a buffer area that was included from residential uses for that matter, but it was directly required just to include a minimum 30-meter buffer from the forested lands for environmental purposes. The proposed setbacks from the buildings and the diamonds are shown on this slide. Again, an attempt's been made to provide as much separation as possible to the surrounding land uses through the updated design and site layout. A question was asked about the permitted uses. So in terms of permitted uses, the definition in the current draft bylaw states that the proposed uses will primarily be baseball related. The owners did note that, for example, they did private to individual golf lessons within their old building. So this may be a similar type of use in terms of scale and overall impact that may occur within the building itself. And again, there's no lighting proposed. Items like lighting can be addressed through the site plan stage to restrict where certain lights are going, for example. But again, the diamond is not proposed to contain any lights. And just a quick rendering to show the conceptual plan for the building, very similar to a new rural or agricultural building you may see within the township. So this is a schematic of the proposed building. So in closing, again, we appreciate the opportunity to provide this overview to you regarding the proposed use for the permanent baseball facility. The owners did take careful consideration to the comments that were received in the past and have reduced the overall plans on the subject property. So from 2 baseball diamonds to 1, for example, and that was to address some of the concerns that were heard earlier. So Smith Brothers has operated under the temporary use with no complaints to date. They've actually offered up 3 open houses to residents who wanted to come to get more information on the business and the facility and just a simple meet and greet. Their staff will also participate in cleanup days in Phelpston, and they've attended one of the Phelpston Recreational Committee meetings just to introduce themselves as well. So as mentioned, this is just the public meeting. There's no decision before you tonight. If there's any questions I can't answer, I know I attempted to answer some of the questions from the previous council meeting, but if there's anything we can't answer tonight, we'll surely get back to staff with detailed responses. So, and it's our understanding that there's been no comments received in opposition. So we did receive a question from a landowner just related to parking, and we'll respond to that direct landowner regarding the question regarding parking. So that concludes my presentation, and I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Towns. I'll now call upon the moderator to provide the number of people who have registered to ask questions or make comments regarding this application.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There are no commenters registered to make an oral submission for this application tonight.
Okay, do members of council have questions or comments regarding this application? Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you for the presentation. Just a few questions based on comments. I'm thinking back to, and I know we didn't have any questions or anything from the general public for this particular meeting, but I'm thinking back to the original meeting, and there were some concerns presented by neighbors immediately to the, I guess it would be the west side. And I know that there's 40 acres or whatever there, and that a large portion of it is wooded. So those folks whose backyards back onto the wooded portion, I don't think they're going to experience anything too different. Certainly in the summertime with the foliage there to cut down the noise. But I know that one of the questions we brought up before was the idea of lighting. And for the baseball diamond, and we were advised that that wouldn't be a consideration. But I was still wondering about the 5 or 6 yards to the west there. whether or not there's an opportunity in the design phase here to erect something to deflect sound. I'm thinking there may be activity out on the ball diamond, maybe even tournaments on the weekends where there will be a lot of people and a lot of noise through the day. Whether or not that might be something that could be considered to put in a berm or something to mitigate the noise, a tree line, something along those lines. And the other question I had was with respect to them being operational now. I know that this came to us. It certainly wasn't at the peak of baseball season, and most of their activities were inside, and I suspect some of the activities moved outside. But once the baseball diamond is in place and full operation occurs, that would be something that would certainly generate, I think, a lot more activity out of doors that might affect the neighbors. So, Mr. Towns, through the mayor, if you may maybe address just, I'm considering those 6 neighbors there really, because they seem to be the ones, I don't even know if there's anybody across the road, but they seem to be the ones that would be most impacted by activity taking place at the Smith Brothers Farm.
Mr. Towns?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Cabral, through you, Mayor Allen. We'll take that back to the owner for consideration. Again, they really tried to push the diamond as far east as possible, and that's the setbacks are, I think, well, a minimum of 105 meters from the nearest resident, and then approximately 140 from the row of the subdivision, what you're referring to. So we'll take the consideration back about some design elements that could be included to the owner on the west side. And,
Yeah, follow on, Mayor Allen, please.
Go ahead.
Mr. Towns, I don't know if you're familiar with the rural setting, but I can assure you that 1,500 feet, given the right conditions, you can hear 2 people conversing, let alone, people playing a sporting activity outside. Sound can and does carry a great distance when there's obstacles in the way. And that's why I'm kind of thinking ahead, knowing that my neighbors are about 1,400 feet away from me, and sometimes I can hear them outside, not yelling, just having a conversation, not enough to hear what they're saying, but certainly an activity, a sporting activity would generate more than just casual conversation. There'd be cheering and things like that too. So I would simply ask that if you would be able to do something with respect to that, I think the people there would be very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Towns, are there going to be bleachers or spectator stands of sorts?
To you, Mayor Allen, yes, there'll be, not initially, there's no proposals for bleachers, but we are including that in the amendment. So at most, you're going to have 2 teams playing in a game at one time, so they'll be limited in scale. But yeah, the end proposal would include bleachers near the home plate area.
So I'm looking at slide 12, which is the best overview depiction. So it would be on either side of home plate, right by the normal, as you would expect, between home plate and first base and home plate and third base.
That's correct.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Oh, Councillor Machapman, I believe you had a.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, and thank you for the presentation, Mr. Towns. My comment was, I really like seeing the Smith Brothers work with the community, involve them with coming into the facilities, going to the meetings, participating in the Phelpston spring cleanup, things like that. I think it's really well supportive that they are actually working with the residents there. I like that they're trying their best there. I also was wondering, same with Councillor Cabral, about a sound barrier, a fence or something with those residents, because it looks like it's open. Last time I drove by there, the backyards are open right onto that property. So if you can come back with that, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right then. Yes, I echo that. Certainly, it's not lost on us that you have been trying to work with the public and taking the initial comments into consideration with the adjustments you've made. So it seems like you're moving in the right direction to address the questions and issues. So Thank you, Mr. Towns, to you and to the principals involved. So thank you to all who participated in the public meeting with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment and for showing interest in this matter. Can I have a mover and seconder to adjourn this public meeting? Councillor Ritchie, Councillor Cabral. That the public meeting of council held under sections 34 of the Planning Act for application ZB 2022-004 Smith Brothers Farms, Inc. does now adjourn at 6:55 PM. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you again, Mr. Towns.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you. Okay. Can I have a mover and seconder to receive direction following the public meeting? Councillor Ma Chapman, Councillor Cabral. That council, having held a public meeting in accordance with section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990 P13, as amended on zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2022-004 by Smith Brothers Farms, Inc., having noted correspondence and input received, direct that the application be referred back to staff. All those in favor? That is carried. There are no other deputations or presentations. Question period. Members of the public can ask questions with respect to something on the agenda by submitting them in writing to the clerk by noon of the day of the meeting, or submitting a request to appear to make oral submissions. Further details of that are posted on the agenda. Clerk Ainsworth, have we received any submissions for this evening?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There have been no submissions received for this evening's meeting.
Thank you. Moving on to 7.1, minutes of council adoption. Can I have a mover and seconder to approve the minutes? Councillor Ritchie, Councillor Cabral. These are the minutes of special meeting of council, May 18, 2022, and the regular meeting of council of the same date. Any comments? All those in favor? That is carried. 7.2 is the minutes of boards, committees, and organizations. A mover and seconder to receive these. Councillor Ma Chapman, Councillor Ritchie. There are 5 of them as listed. Any comments with respect to these? The motion is that the minutes of the boards, committees, and other organizations listed herein be received as information. Springwater Public Library Board meeting, March 15, 2022. The Library Board meeting of April 19, 2022. The Library Board meeting of May 3rd, 2022. The Recreation Advisory Committee meeting of March 29, 2022. And the Rec Advisory Committee meeting of May 3rd, 2022. All those in favor? It is carried. Correspondence and information items, there are none, so we move to 9.1 action reports. Can I have a mover and seconder to get this on the floor, please? Councillor Ma Chapman. Seconder, please. Hello. Councillor Ritchie. We have 9.2 through 9.6. Any questions, comments, or desire to pull any of these? Councillor Hannah.
Questions on 9.2. I probably suggest the clerk would mind it pulled, so I'll pull it, please.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, so the motion is that the action reports 9.2 through 9.6 be received, and the recommendations contained therein be approved as presented. 9.3 SU 2013-05 D Hickling Subdivision Agreement Authorization Report. 9.4 Award of Human Resources Information System RFQ 2022-03 ADM. 9.5 Laserfish Cloud. 9.6 Award of Tender 2022-18 PW Single, Double, and Micro Surfacing Treatment, with the exception of 9.2 regarding the Junior Planner Recruitment Authorization. All those in favor? That is carried. Mover and seconder to deal with 9.2, please. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Hannah. Go ahead, Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question and a point, please. My question first is for clarification. 9.2 is asking to hire a junior planner. I just want to make clear through you, Mayor, to Director Spagnol, that this is not a replacement of a vacancy. It is a new full-time position that's we're asking for, correct?
I believe that's the case. So I'll turn it to Director Spagnol to clarify.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Councillor Hannah, that is correct. This is for a new position to complement the department.
Thank you. And that's why I read the report. I just wanted to be sure. And my question to follow up would be, was this on our 2022 budget and eliminated, if you like, and didn't get approved? And was there a business case for that position at that time that didn't get approved? Or is this a new initiative?
Director Spagnol.
Mayor Allen, through you to Councillor Hannah. This is a new initiative. It was not an item that was brought up through the 2022 budget.
Thank you. And I read, sorry, through you, the mayor to you, Director Spagnol, I did read in the report how it was being funded, partly for this year, and for the following year, if it's approved, it would be a tax item that would be funded through taxes in the future, correct?
Director Spagnol.
Mayor Allen, through you to Councillor Hannah, that is correct. This would be a taxation item for the 2023 budget year. The idea is also that there might be the ability to provide some offsets through planning revenues, but primarily this would be a budget item and a taxation item for 2023.
Thank you. And one final question, Mayor, Director Spagnol, if this is a full-time position and it's approved as a budget item, what would that tax dollar amount to with benefits?
Director Spagnol.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through you to Councillor Hannah. The tax item with benefits would be $85,836. That's with benefits.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll read the motion that the report from the Director of Planning Services regarding the junior planner recruitment authorization, new permanent full-time position dated June 1, 2022 be received, and that council authorize the recruitment of a new permanent full-time junior planner staff member for the planning department. All those in favor?
Mayor Allen,
Councillor
my card's
Cabral.
up there. Yes, thank you. I had it up. Maybe it's blurry on the screen there. I apologize for that. I have a number of questions about this. I just wanted to go over this because this seems to be jumping the queue. This isn't the first program change, let's call it what it is, that we've had after our budget was already moved forward. And, as much as I realize that, things change and we move along, I'm just going to look at, we're going back to 2017. So that's 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. Now we're in 22. And this is coming up midstream. I don't see why this can't just wait until regular budget deliberation time. And I'll tell you why I kind of feel that way. First off, we had a service delivery review last year. And the service delivery review was utilized to justify a number of hires. And during budget deliberations, all the staff hires or program changes that were requested were approved. There wasn't anything from planning at that time. So I'm just kind of trying to think, like, why is there such an emergency all of a sudden, I guess is where I'm coming from. So all the staff program changes passed. Staff program changes are inherently part of the budget process. We're 5 months away from that going. I would suspect that staff probably by August or maybe even earlier might already be putting together what they want to do going forward as far as what their staffing requirements are going to be. So I just see this as fairly premature in that sense, but there's a few more points. Mapping and the developments. There's a number of developments in the map that indicate there's a lot going on. But I also, it's not lost on me that several developers have come before this council not seeking 1-year extensions, but in some cases seeking 3 years. And it was council that actually reduced it from 3 years to 1. So if the developers aren't banging down the door, it makes me wonder why we need somebody right this way. It also puts us in a position where we're hiring staff outside of the budget process, and basically those hires are jumping queue, in my opinion, because they don't come at budget time, and therefore they're not assessed in conjunction with all the other asks at the same time. And this impacts the 2023 budget, and it should be part of the budget deliberations for 2023. We're not in January. I mean, we're already in June. We're only going to have basically maybe 5 more meaningful meetings, and then we're going to be looking at what the budget requests are going to be for next year. I've also been on council here and seen some developments come forward that they come before council, they make their pitch, and they're going to put in townhouses. An example would be here in Elmvale. Then all of a sudden that changed about 1.5 years later, and they were going to put in a seniors complex. And then a short time later again, the seniors complex went somewhere else, and now we have another townhouse development going in there. So I'm really struggling with developers that are dragging their heels and asking for extensions versus the ongoing pressures. I just don't see hiring someone now. And in my opinion, like I say, I think it just simply jumps queue and moves it forward.
Okay, let me get another.
Just a couple more points there, Mayor Allen, please. Just so everybody understands exactly where I'm coming from. It just seems to me that there's no justification, just that, well, we're busy and we're growing. Well, we know that. But same at budget time, we were looking for concrete data for us to look at and assess so that we could make determinations on program changes. And as I said, there's been several program change hires outside of the budget, and that should be discouraged. We shouldn't be hiring new hires outside of budget time. That's why we have a budget. That's why we debate our budget. And once again, as I said, if we're having a budget, then that's what this should be part of. This is putting a liability onto the 2023 budget, which hasn't been debated yet or even put forward. So those are my thoughts on this. I unfortunately will not be able to support this today.
Okay, I'll start with Director Spagnell and I see CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Councillor Cabral. I think it's important to note that just speaking to the, first of all, to the extensions to draft plans of subdivision, I think it's important to note that just because subdivisions have been extended does not mean that there's work that's required to process and deal with those draft plan conditions and those subdivisions where the extensions have occurred. As noted, there's still ongoing work, and there's always changes through the development process with respect to red line revisions, with respect to rezoning, with respect to reviewing reports and meetings and trying to clear and work with the developers to clear conditions of approval. So, from the perspective of extensions, just because a subdivision has been extended doesn't necessarily mean that there is not any work happening. With respect to program changes outside of the budget, there's a few factors that have come into play over the last little while that have really contributed to the need for this position. As noted, there were a number of leaves that occurred in the department, which through the recruitment process, planning was having troubles filling due to what we see as being a more competitive market, I would say, to obtain planning help. But more importantly, that's on the basis that it's very difficult to hire and recruit for contract positions. So the reason why this is being brought forward now is the thought was that this position is needed because we have in the department pressures from the Committee of Adjustment. We've got pressures that are being placed upon us through additional residential units and the need to review those. And then we've got additional pressures related to responding to residents, developers on zoning and anything related to development. So really, from the perspective of the department, is that it is a needed position, and it's one of these instances where, just based on the difficulties that we've been having with recruitment, it was thought that coming forward with a junior position at this point on a permanent basis would allow for a better way to attract talent to help with the immediate needs of the department. Also recognizing that as the way the department sits right now, after reviewing the service delivery reports and the studies and taking a look at the workload, is that we are over capacity. So based on all the information, Councillor Cabral, this is why staff is bringing this forward at this point in time, because a lot of the recruitment issues that we were facing, they weren't as pronounced as I would say now. And the pressures keep on increasing on the department with the approvals that have been placed, that are in place, and that we expect to be in place over the upcoming months.
CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just further to Director Spagnol's comments. Again, the recruitment for talent is at an all-time high. If you read any reports that are out there, if you try to recruit for talent today, it's a much different environment than what it has been in the last couple of years. There's tons of jobs out there. There's just not enough people to fill the jobs, and it's a market now where individuals get to choose where they want to come. And to Director Spagnol's point, we have gone out, we've tried to fill a vacancy on a contract basis, and we've been unsuccessful in doing so. We've had a couple of attempts where individuals have come on board, they've signed on with the township, and they either came on for a week or two or whatever the case may be, and they found permanency somewhere else. And in other cases, they've signed on and they didn't even show up because they accepted a permanent position somewhere else. So again, it's a very different market that we're experiencing right now. And our planning staff are under pressure to get a lot of applications processed, whether it be committee of adjustment or whether it be subdivisions. And these draft plan approved subdivisions, in Midhurst, there's 150 plus conditions that have to be satisfied, that staff have to go through each condition to ensure that it's been satisfied. So it's time consuming. I would just also state that, council did just approve 3 new positions in our building department to assist our building department on the pressures that they've been experiencing. So again, it's volume and it's not going away anytime soon. So this is some of the reasons why we're trying to come forward with this position to assist the organization in moving us forward. There's high demands on staff, and we're simply asking for council's consideration for this position.
Follow on.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Thank you, Marilyn. I appreciate what CAO Schmidt is saying, and I appreciate what Director Spagnol is saying. But I can't help but recall he used the term overcapacity. However, the service delivery report didn't indicate that to the extent that we needed to hire people. And when we're talking about recruitment, everybody's in the same boat. To be quite honest with you, I think we'd be better off to wait until universities have let out and see if there's somebody that might be willing to come here on a contract position with the understanding that we will be looking at potentially hiring someone for this position in the budget year. But to continually say that, it's a tight market this, it's a tight market that, everybody's doing it. Everybody's under the same boat. We could hire somebody today and they could leave for somewhere else tomorrow. We don't hold those reins. And my only concern is that, like I say, it's like jumping the queue. And I think that this should simply wait till budget time and put it in with everybody else and all of the other asks. When we talk about the 150 conditions, planning has been working on those conditions for a period of time, and now all of a sudden everything's becoming critical, and that's what I find, I guess, a little bit not disappointing, but a little bit disheartening, is that we can't really help you because we don't control those particular things. But the fact of the matter is that it's a new hire, and it's 5 months away from when we're going to be doing budget anyway. And
The service
ahead.
delivery review did indicate that the department's 119% over capacity. So they are over capacity. As both Director Spagnell and CAO Schmidt have said, they have tried to get a contract position. And they obviously would have said there could be a full-time position here, and that hasn't met with success. So it's
Mayor Allen,
we have had examples, excuse me, we have had examples, county has had examples, townships have had examples of where they have had to hire midterm due to pressures, due to situational changes. And this is what has been set out in the report. Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Mayor. And just follow up to what Councillor Cabell suggested was that right now there's a demand and there's a short amount of resources out there, according to CAO and Director Spagnell. I'm just suggesting in compliance with what, or consistent with what Councillor Cabell suggested, that by waiting until maybe after the end of the year and we start a new budget, or council starts a new budget, there may be a better selection of people to recruit from, a better recruiting pool, if you like. The other observation I'd like to make is that Perry Ritchie quite often brings up about Yorkwood, and I think we built 350 or 380 units there with, I believe, less staff than planning has currently, and staff did a fine job of getting that done. Going forward, I know there's a lot of units coming forward in different major complexes, but those major complexes, my understanding, are not a lot more, some, but not a lot more work than, say, an individual building maybe 10 lots or houses on 10 lots. So I just find it hard to support this, given that it was not in the budget, and I have similar concerns as Councillor Cabell.
CEO Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to clarify a point here is that I'm not suggesting that there's not quality talent out there. What I'm suggesting is that from a recruitment standpoint, in order to get that quality talent, you have to be competitive. And how do you be competitive when others are providing permanent full-time positions and we're only providing a contract? That's the difference. We're not competitive. We can't be competitive in that market. You have to provide for permanency in order to be in that market and to try to acquire that quality talent. That's the difference.
Councillor Ritchie?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I've been sitting here listening to all of it, but I just want to remind all of council that interest rates went up again today. They're going to go up again next week and the week after. And they're going to get a handle on the inflation, and I'm glad that they are. It's long overdue. And even in our industry as realtors, we're starting to see some cresting here, some coolness. And I'm wondering if we're kind of jumping the gun here. Like, I know in the building department, when I was going through the process, I know my application was sent out to an outside agency to review it. And I'm wondering if we should be doing the same thing with the planning department. There's lots of planning companies out there that be open to taking some workload on, and just see where this cresting, this coolness comes, because 6 months from now you're going to be going into a budget. Of course, you can account for it then. There could be some coolness there where a lot of the stuff might just all sit there, and we'll be sitting with extra help. So I'm wondering if we were to just maybe take baby steps and seek for some outside help to help with this onslaught of workload that they're talking about, and just kind of play it out for a few months and see where it goes. Because I think this cresting here is going to slowly, it's going to slow everything down, which is much needed. Give everybody a break, and by that time, budget will be around the corner, will be up, and there'll be more people looking for a job, wanting to come and work here. So I'm going to turn this down tonight. I think there's lots of outfits out there that could take the extra workload. I know the building department's done it, planning department can do it. It's just that I don't want to see all of a sudden everything come to a halt or slow down, and we're sitting with extra staff. So a few extra months ain't going to hurt anything.
Director Spagno, what's the backlog like? What's response time like? What's that been trending?
Mayor Allen, I can tell yourself and council that there has been a significant amount of volume for information regarding additional residential units. To the point regarding development and slowdowns, there's always a spin-off effect that occurs as a result of development that usually results in minor variance applications for decks, for accessory buildings. So, you know, from a backlog perspective, it's really a matter of existing staff being spread thin to try to handle the amount of calls, try to handle the amount of inquiries, plus trying to deal with all the new applications. And then on top of that, dealing with draft plan approved subdivisions where developers, even though if there is a slowdown, they always continue to try to satisfy conditions so that when things pick up, they have a product ready for sale. So there's always pressures on the department. It's just in certain times it shifts from one aspect to another. But I can tell you that staff are inundated with additional residential unit inquiries. The committee of adjustment applications that are currently that have been dealt with by staff right now are expected to exceed previous years. New applications are expected to exceed previous years. And quite frankly, based on the amount of development that we have slated forward, we expect that trend to continue. So at the end of the day, it really is at a point right now where to provide for an improved service levels, this position is needed, because there's really no sign of development pressure slowing down. Everything is pointing to increased development pressures, and it has for quite some time. So, and it's a matter of even looking at the programs that have been brought forward since 2017. There's legislative programs that have been brought forward. There's programs that have been identified as a priority by council. And those are adding to the workload as well. So, I mean, staff is in council's hands. We're bringing this to council tonight. And to CAO Schmidt's point, we have been having difficulty with recruitment. We have seen we've seen a shortage in candidates applying to these positions. And we don't expect that to get any better within the next 5-6 months, because when these postings occurred was right around when graduations would have occurred through university and whatnot. So quite frankly, there's immense competition, and it's based on the fact that there are full-time positions available out there, which is what primarily candidates are going for.
Okay. Councillor Mott Chapman had her card up. Go ahead.
Alan, I do support this, and I understand the rest of the council saying about not doing it at the budget time. But things do change, and I understand that staff is working thinly, and I don't want to even see what their job description is, because I have no idea. But I can understand. But I do believe that when you're working thinly and stressed out, we might lose the people that we already have, because they might decide to take leave, take another job, and I don't want to see that. So I do support this, and I was going to ask about the contract, but everyone did say about recruiting. Not really a nice picture if they're contracted and where it can be a full-time job. So, and I do have residents reaching out to me on planning aspects of things. I've said to go to the planning department, but when you work thin, their timing or customer service goes longer or not as professional. So if it helps with alleviate the workload on the staff that we have, I totally support this, even though it's not through budget.
Okay, new points to be made, Councillor Cabral.
Yes, Mayor Allen. I just wanted to point out that it seems interesting that this is for a leave position for the contract. I heard that someone was on leave, or it was leave, or we had a contract position and they left. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that, but if it's a contract position for a leave, then wouldn't that be setting bad precedent, really? If somebody else leaves and we can't find a contract position to fill their shoes, does that mean we hire for a new position? Because what I'm hearing, and maybe I've misinterpreted the leave portion, is that we're going to hire a brand new person for a permanent position, and then at some point in time, someone's coming back to their regular position, and that would be why we have the new position.
Clarify, let's pause there and have Director Spagnuolo.
Sorry, Mayor
clarify.
Allen, just one other point is, in order, and I have to look at Councillor Ritchie for this, is that there may be opportunity, rather than hire someone to fill this gap or fill this void, is to see if there's a firm out there, because I know other townships do it as well, where they do send some work out when they're inundated. Maybe that's an option that we should be looking at, rather than hiring a brand new person.
Director Spagnuolo.
Thank you, Mayor, through to Councillor Cabral. So to clarify, the leave position that the department was trying to fill was a contract position for a planning position. And we were unsuccessful in recruiting somebody for that position simply because the talent pool wasn't there. We weren't getting enough candidates that were coming in who could come in and do the job, to be quite frank. And in this instance, what the department did was reverted that position over to a contract junior planner position, with the thought to try to relieve the pressures that the department was facing with respect to the inquiries, with respect to committee of adjustment. The reason why this report is before council today is because, based on that, the thought is that if we get a junior planning position on a full-time basis, that will alleviate those pressures, the pressures that we're facing on top of whatever pressures we're facing due to the leave.
And any comment on the outside services aspect?
Yes, Mayor Allen. So the planning department has contracted outside services to deal with some subdivision developments, to try to take a look at clearing some conditions, trying to carry forward certain initiatives. One specifically, I'm just trying to think here, was the cannabis initiative, dealing with the zoning and OPA, where there was some background work done by WSP. The thought behind that was that those consulting services could be utilized for some initiatives, but in order to provide for improved service, the thought is that a dedicated position would be required in order to provide interaction with residents, developers upfront at the start of the process. So this would include counter inquiries, phone calls, which, to be quite frank, in my experience, consulting services don't necessarily provide that high of a level of service, due to the fact that they are not on the ground knowing what's going on in the municipality. So the reason for the junior position is that it is needed based on committee of adjustment, it's needed based on the pressures that we're facing, and it's needed to try to relieve some of the pressures on senior planners and myself, so that we can focus on some of the bigger initiatives and subdivisions. So either way, this
Hannah?
position from planning standpoint is needed to relieve these pressures.
Councillor Hannah?
Thank you, Mayor. My final observation is that I can appreciate staff's concerns about the workload and the pressures coming forward, but I do also have concerns about circumventing the budget process. This is something that will come forward. If it's not approved tonight in 2023, it may or may not be approved at that time, based on what the workload ends up being, and also what happens with regard to the business case comes forward at that time. So I'm not comfortable in supporting violating in my mind, what would be circumventing the budget process. So I'll be voting against it, and I'd like a recorded vote, please.
CAO Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Understanding or hearing the comments tonight and getting a sense that this may not be something that council is fully supportive. If that's the case, I would ask that council consider referring or amending the motion to refer this to the 2023 budget deliberations, if not supported tonight.
Okay, Councillor Clerk Ainsworth, you had a card up.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I was going to advise the same as CAO Schmidt. Process-wise, if this motion would be turned down, staff would not have a mechanism to bring it forward to the 2023 budget process, as it would need to be a reconsideration from council specifically. So as CAO Schmidt mentioned, if that's the intent of council, then a deferral to the budget would be recommended.
Okay, before going to Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ma Chapman had her card up again.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I was just going to ask, when we have sent out our summer planning to other consultants, what the cost was of those aspects. But Director Spagel said it was more than just some of the planning. It was customer service, community adjustments. So I just wanted to know if what the cost was that we've spent on taking our planning, outsourcing our planning, I guess.
Dr. Spagnell?
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through the Councillor Ma Chapman. The exact costs, I do not know, but I can tell you that consulting fees are generally more than what the cost would be associated with a dedicated position. I can provide those costs to you, maybe outside of council on the side, or provide the council at a later date. But generally, consulting fees are more expensive than having a dedicated position.
Councillor Ritchie?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through to the Director Spagnell. Just off the top of my head, have we ever reached out to any of the universities, like maybe the university you went to, Director Spagnell, or some others that offer, planning, the profession of planning, and see about 1 year, 2 year new planners wanting to do a co-op or something with our municipality, something almost like a physician recruitment, where they come and work for the summer and they kind of get a taste of what they're looking for. They get a taste for the municipality. I'm just kind of throwing that out there because I just think there's a university over in Orillia, there's Lakehead, there's different ones, but I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Like whether we're looking at junior planners, whether we're looking at building officials, it might be a great way to recruit given what's going on there. But there's a calmness coming, and we are seeing it. I'll just give you a brief example. Like in our industry, just up here, it depends on the product. But normally you would take the listing and you'd hold offers for a week. That's all going by the wayside now. It's starting to get more normal. But I think as we move through the year and interest rates start to bite, you're going to see that really take hold. And I'm just cautioning that, we could be sitting here with a building full of staff and things are going to cool off. And I'm just thinking if we could reach out and kind of hire somebody to kind of fill that void till the next budget. And budget is in 6 months. A lot of things can happen then, and see where we're at. I'm in favor of putting it into this fall's budget, but I can't support it tonight. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, Director Spagnell, any comments with respect to reaching out to any universities for potential co-op? Have we done that in the past?
The only thing, Mayor Allen, through to Councillor Ritchie, is that in the past we've had summer student positions that have been posted. And those positions are available and posted on the Ontario Professional Planning Institute website, which generally gets picked up by all university students that are in the planning field or in a related field. And in the past, actually, we have had through some of those planning, the student positions where we actually have had staff that we've had come back. But as far as a co-op program, no, there's never been a co-op program. But the universities and the students that are in the planning field or related field definitely would have access to the Ontario Professional Planning Institute website. So,
Clerk Ainsworth, do you have a potential amendment then that you were speaking of?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So should council wish to push this to the 2023 budget, I would recommend the wording that the motion now before council be deferred to be included in the 2023 budget deliberations for consideration.
Okay, mover and seconder for that? Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'm happy to do that, like be a mover, but I also would like another amendment to it.
Go ahead.
I think it behooves us to investigate this a wee bit further so that we can from time to time provide some relief to the planning department in particular. I know when leaves do come up, regardless of how this one is formulating itself, but personal experience, someone I know quite well, building a home right now from scratch, 2-acre lot, not in Springwater Township. But I find it interesting from listening to what Councillor Ritchie was saying about, and I don't want to use the term consultant, I prefer to use the word contract. As a matter of fact, in my former life, we used to do checks internally, and it was very expensive. We started contracting that out, not hiring consultants, but contracting. And the point I'm trying to make here is when they were up there excavating the basement area to do the house, this is just a week or so ago, I was chatting with the person, and he indicated to me that it was rather strange that he got a phone call from someone he'd never heard of before, from, I guess, an engineering or design firm, and it was all about his property. So the municipality, although it was processing everything, obviously had someone else that was reviewing these plans on a contract basis on their behalf. So what I would like to see is possibly, and it might work for other departments as well, something along the lines that staff also prepare a report for council, looking at other ways that might assist in streamlining the process with outside assistance. And maybe they need to look at a few other municipalities to see how they're doing it and whether or not they're using outside sources. I certainly am not lost on what Director Spagnol said about, being intimate with the township, and I'm sure that comes in very, very handy when you're dealing with some of the residents. But at the end of the day, when you're looking at a plan and you need to ask a few questions or make a few replies to it, being intimate with the township might not be that relevant if all you're doing is telling the person that they have to do A, B, and C in order to get their plan approved. So I would like to see something in there as part of that amendment that staff be directed to look at alternatives, possibly contracting some of the work when appropriate, and look at other municipalities to see what they're doing and report back to council. Something along those lines.
You've got that, Clerk Ainsworth, too? Okay, can I have a mover for that, please? And seconder? Councillor Cabral, I presume you're moving it? Seconder? Councillor Hannah? Can you read the amendment, Clerk Ainsworth, please?
Through you, Mayor Allen, that the motion now before council be deferred to be included in the 2023 budget deliberations for consideration, and that staff also prepare a report to council outlining alternative options, including the hiring of a planning contractor.
No, not the hiring of a planning contractor.
Contracting, not hiring, contracting. An outside agency.
Contracting out certain planning services, something along that line.
Thank you, Mayor Allen.
Okay, and there was a request for a recorded vote on this?
I can pass on that now that we've changed the motion, Mayor Allen.
I'd like to have a recorded vote, so I agree with that. Go ahead, Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. When I state your name, please state yes or no.
Hate to be a bug, Clerk Ainsworth, but you be so kind as to read the motion once again so we can make sure that it's as we like it.
Clerk Ainsworth.
Thank you.
That the motion now before council be deferred to be included in the 2023 budget deliberations for consideration, and that staff also prepare a report to council outlining alternative options, including the provisions for a planning contractor.
No, I think the element that Councillor Cabral was talking about was contracting out certain services. So not hiring a planning contractor,
Just contracting out.
contracting out certain services.
So including the contracting of services.
Yes.
Thank you again, Mayor Allen.
When I state your name, please state yes or no. Councillor Cabral,
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie,
Yes.
Councillor Chapman,
Yes.
Councillor Hannah,
Yes.
and Mayor Allen.
No.
That motion is carried.
Do we need to go back to the main motion or?
No, Mayor Allen.
Okay. All right, moving on to information reports. Mover and seconder to get these forward, please. Sorry, Director Spagnol, you disappeared again. Did you have a comment before we go on to information reports?
My apologies, Mayor Allen. I just jumped the gun there. My apologies.
Okay. Mover and seconder for information reports, please. Councillor Cabral, Councillor Mott Chapman. There are 3 there. Any questions or discussion with respect to those? Yes, Councillor Cabral.
Just a question with respect to the disconnecting from work. I'm going to be honest. I'm aware of it. I'm aware of the legislation. I haven't read it. However, I'm just curious to know, with respect to our management employees, how does that revolve around them? Obviously, for folks that are just on the ground, boots on the ground type of thing, they get time off, but somebody has to be available to take a call to, fix a main or tow a vehicle or take a tree off the road. So I'm just curious on that one. Thank you.
Manager Marchand.
Through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Cabral, you're absolutely correct. So as far as management goes, it's part of their duties and responsibilities. So if it is considered an expectation of their role, they are to not have their phones on all the time. So if, I'll give you an example, because there's some examples in the policy, but they're not expected to, if you email them with regards to a concern that isn't considered I'm trying to think of an example.
Yeah, an emergency or
an emergency, then they're to wait until the following day to answer any of those questions.
okay, Councillor Mott Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And just on that note, I know I usually email during the evening, and I have to say the staff, management and directors always get back to me, even though I say you can get back to me tomorrow. So I have to commend them that always respond every time I send an email after hours. So thank you for that. But yeah, I also think that you need time off by yourself, for yourself.
CEO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, further to Manager Marchand's comments, again, the expectation that we've tried to put in the organization is that individuals do need time away from work, obviously. But to Councillor Cabral's comment, if there's something urgent or an emergency that happens, obviously we're available or someone's available to respond. But again, if it's a simple email that comes across in the evening or on the weekends, and I know Councillor Mott Chapman does it, Councillor Hannah's done it, and I'm sure all members of council have done it at one point in time, to be quite honest with you. Again, there's not an expectation to respond right away. It's the next business day, they can address the question. I'll be honest, I know for myself, speaking for myself, and I'm sure a few others on the senior management team, typically when we get a response, we want to respond right away because we're on to the next thing immediately right thereafter. So it's just get it out of the way and move on. So again, the culture here though is that the expectation is not to respond immediately. unless it's an emergency and or of an urgent nature. So hopefully that helps.
Okay, thank you. So the motion is that the report items listed herein be received as information disconnecting from work policy zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2022-007 Re-J Ma 2132 South Ore Lake Road, Q1 2022 procurement summary. All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to verbal reports, Director Spagnell, official plan update and economic development update.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I do not have anything new to report.
Thank you. Midhurst development update, General Manager Ramdale.
Good evening, Mayor Allen and members of council. The construction of the effluent main continues on Wilson Drive, and you might have noticed that the roadway is down to one lane north of the railway crossing, and it's controlled using a stoplight. We continue to send out traffic messaging via social media, hoping our residents use alternate routes and reduce the congestion on Wilson. Work on the signals at Snow Valley and Wilson continues, and I can confirm that the support foundation for the lights are in the ground, and the project is on schedule. On the home building front, we've got 232 building applications in, and as of earlier today, we had issued 95 building permits. Over on Midhurst Heights, there's nothing new to report there, and that brings me to the end of our Midhurst development update for this evening. Thanks.
Thank you. County updates in the absence of Deputy Mayor Coughlin. I'll just report on one thing rising from the May 24th meeting of County Council, and that was the Municipal Comprehensive Review Project Update and Scheduling of Public Meetings. On April 12, 2022, a special meeting of council working session was held on the MCR, in which updates were provided on the growth forecast and lands needs assessments, refined provincial natural heritage system mapping and related policies, first draft of the refined provincial agricultural system mapping and anticipated next steps. County staff have met with staff of the different municipalities on this project ongoing. And in an effort to ensure that an ongoing and thorough consultation process continues, and in consideration of the detailed growth management work completed to date, the next formal step in the engagement consultation process is the scheduling of a legislated open house and statutory public meeting, both to be held in June of this year. On June 21, 2022, there'll be a statutory public open house for the growth management and provincial natural heritage system official plan amendments. And then on June 28th, the statutory public meeting for growth management and provincial natural heritage system official plan amendments. It's become apparent that additional analysis and coordination with other mapping exercises, such as the provincial agricultural system, would be beneficial to undertake prior to recommending implementation of the provincial natural heritage system mapping. On this basis, further refinement work will occur over the next several months, and county planning staff will report back to county council in the fall of this year regarding this work and anticipated timing for a future public open house and statutory public meeting on this matter. A future meeting of county council will be necessary following the June statutory public open house and public meeting for council to consider whether to adopt a finalized proposed official plan amendment relating to growth management. A draft of the growth management OPA intended to be brought forward for consideration at the June meetings is currently being drafted by the project team and will be made publicly available in advance of these meetings as part of the notice of circulation in early June. It's also important to note that the initial OPA for growth management will not be making any specific recommendations regarding the settlement area boundary expanses or future development opportunities for individual parcels of land. Decisions relating to specific lands that will be used for future community or residential area development and employment areas are to be reflected in an update to the county official plan land use designation schedule 5.1 will take place as part of a future OPA and will be the second phase of this part of the MCR anticipated to occur in 2023. So that's just an update of information related to that. Moving on to municipal updates. Councillor Ritchie?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. About 2 months ago, I brought a notice of motion there about for staff to come back about our ditching details in the municipality. Haven't heard any more about it. And also, I brought another notice of motion regarding parking at South Door Lake Park and the one on Ann Street and Carson Road. I heard that there's going to be some parking lots put in there on Carson Road and Ann Street, but the one at South Door Lake Park, nothing's been done. So I'm just wanting, if possible, an update as to when they're going to start, when we can see this. The warm season is here and upon us, and the tourists are coming up. And it'd be nice to see these things get done, or what's the status on them? Thank you.
Okay, I'll go to CAO Schmidt first then, please. And then
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to, maybe I'll refer this to General Manager Ramdale to provide an update.
okay,
I believe.
this all
both
come
will
on
be coming
quickly.
shortly.
Go ahead, General Manager.
Through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Ritchie. Both reports will be coming to the June 15th Council, the ditching update and the Orr Lake parking update report as you requested. You are correct. At Ann Street, we have put in motion a plan to create a minimum of 5 parking spots behind, away from the roadway towards the trail. And that would be in addition to whatever parking spaces are available in the developer's sales office location.
Okay, follow on.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And what about South Door Lake Road?
So
Go ahead, General Manager.
Through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Ritchie. Yes, the report for South Orr Lake Road, we will bring in forward a report with a few options, and for council to give us some direction on based upon those options.
And you said that's June 15th as well?
That is correct, Mayor Allen.
Okay, thank you. Other municipal updates? Councillor Mott Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Friday night, Aunt Mills had 80 cities at their little event Friday night. It was a fantastic response. Lots of residents came out, filled out the survey, put the little stickers on the dots, or put the little stickers on the board where they would like to, what they would like to see at the new hub. So it was fantastic. They had a movie night, popcorn, candy floss. Someone donated a pizza oven, and Piewood gave them some pizzas at a special cost. So I just want to say that overall it was a fantastic night. And Jane at 880 Cities said the response was phenomenal.
Good. Maybe further to that, CEO Schmidt, what is the remaining, I know there's something on this Saturday. Maybe you could review for council what the remaining presentations and public input dates are before wrapping it up and coming back to council with a report from all the surveys and meetings, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, maybe I'll refer this to General Manager Ramdale, as he's the project lead on this, and it's a little more intimate with the details than I am. So,
General Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Yes, we do have one consultation session on the weekend on Saturday. Thereafter, we will be tabulating all of the, and on Tuesday with one of our committees as well. We will be tabulating the comments that we have received to date, which at this point in time exceed over 400 persons providing input, which I would say in all of my years of doing public consultation in much larger municipalities, that's the most engaged I've ever encountered any community to be, as Springwater has been. So we are confident that it will tend towards a consensus in terms of what the community hub should entail. We will be taking that to our steering group for the community hub before bringing it back to council for an information, to just give you an idea what is it the community has spoken about and has suggested. Our target is for July to bring that information report.
Good. That's very exciting, that response. Certainly in any sessions I've been to, there have been people there, and it's been obvious that there has been visitation and input. So that's fantastic. I'd like to call upon Manager Dean to provide an update on the spongy moths and the Springwater Swing, please.
Good evening, Mayor Allen and Council. So I'll start with the Springwater Swing update. So the Springwater Swing is scheduled for Monday, June the 13th. We'll be at the Barrie Golf and Country Club, and it is a 1 p.m. shotgun. So we are up to 106 golfers registered at this point. We have 12 additional dinner guests. Our title sponsor, gold sponsor, silver sponsorship levels, as well as dinner, lunch, golf ball and tee, and our cart plaque sponsors are sold out for the tournament. We have 11 additional hole sponsors, and we will have a sampling hole as well. So staff are just in the final kind of planning and getting all the rest of the marketing materials ready for the golf tournament. And we are looking forward to a great day on the golf course.
Excellent. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yep. And in regard to a spongy moth update, so staff, as through the direction of council at the March 16th meeting, did prepare, they actually were able to prepare 195 spongy moth kits, and they were all handed out to residents. And thank you to the library for their help, as many of them were picked up at the Elmville Library and the Midhurst libraries, as they are utilized by a lot of our residents, and additional ones were picked up at the administration center. Those have all been handed out. The website is up to date, as well as our tracking form that residents can report sightings within their properties or around their properties or on municipal properties. At this point, we are not seeing the same extent of caterpillars. So most of the egg masses have now hatched, I guess, hatched, and the little caterpillars are out. We are not seeing the extent that there was seen last year. To date, we have 9 reported sightings, and just over 50% of those are on, or sorry, actually about 66% of those are on private properties, and the other ones are surrounded to some extent by municipal lands. And we're not seeing at this point a targeted area where there is a large concern. The county, I'm waiting for an update from the county on what they are seeing in their forests. But again, the last conversation I had with county representatives was, again, they were seeing the viruses and other natural effects taking over, and a decrease in the expected egg masses that we're going to produce the caterpillars for this season.
Thank you, Manager Dean. Well done on both fronts. CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just further to Manager Dean's update on the spongy moth, I just want to also advise that we did receive, staff received a complaint, if you will, or a phone call last week from a local resident in the Midhurst area, indicating that there had been a helicopter overhead spraying. And through staff's investigation, we actually were able to confirm that Snow Valley Resort actually had planned an aerial spray. And I believe they will also be looking at a second spray in the next few days here. So again, if you receive any complaints from residents in the area, it is a private spray that Snow Valley Resort has contracted out to Zimmer Air. So,
Councilor Hanna.
Mayor, through you to CAO Schmidt. Couple of questions I've received is that, can residents hire outside contractors to come and spray, 1, and 2, what are their obligations in notifying their neighboring properties that they are spraying? Are there any obligations on them to notify their neighbors?
CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Hannah. And again, maybe I'll defer maybe this to Manager Dean. My comments is that I believe that private property owner has every right to go ahead and hire a third-party contractor to undertake works on their property. And there's a few different providers out there. As for notifying their residents, I guess, or their neighbors, I guess if there's overspraying, I guess again through I believe the report that came forward earlier this year, we're trying to encourage neighbors to be friendly and have a conversation with their neighbors to ensure that they're aware. And who knows, there may be an opportunity where a number of neighbors could pool together resources and they may end up getting some kind of a discount from a third party, although I can't guarantee that. Obviously, the provider would have to provide for that. So in addition to that, maybe Manager Dean can provide any further insights.
Manager Dean?
Yes, thank you. So that's correct. Through the good neighbor approach, it is suggested that they reach out and speak to their neighbors about spraying on property. If it is not an aerial spray, the amount of overspray will vary. And if they are using a certified arborist or contractor, that contractor would know what is under the Pesticide Act. And if they did have to notify neighbors within a certain region, and they would post any signage that was required in and around the property during the spray time.
Other municipal updates? Councillor Cabral?
Thank you. Just with regards to the Elmvale Springwater Farmers Market kicks off on Friday, June the 17th. So something to keep in mind, that's at the community parking lot. I believe it's 33 Queen Street West in Elmvale. And hopefully it'll be a nice day, and it runs from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Fridays. So Friday, June the 17th. And just another reminder regarding music at the park. This is brought to us by the Elmvale BIA. And Summer 22 series kicks off on June the 25th. And from 1 to 3 p.m., there's a fellow playing there. His name is Jamie Cook. Oh, sorry. Jamie Kayotka. And I did hear him last year and he was quite good. So if you get an opportunity to come on out there, that'd be great. I do have one question regarding the moth situation. And I'm just curious to know whether or not Township was successful in securing any kind of vendors that might be able to provide services should residents call the Township looking for such. Just wondering if we were successful in getting anyone to provide us services.
Thank you, Mayor Allen, through yourself to Councillor Cabral. So in speaking with local contractors, we could not secure a discounted rate without knowing the exact properties and the extent to the spray. So they did say that they would be happy to speak to different neighborhoods and or a number of residents that might want to do a group spray, and they would be able to quote properly at that time. But they wouldn't commit to per se an overall program or I guess a true bulk discounted rate to just offer out openly.
Do we have names on the website of a contractor or more contractors?
So there is information. Yep, sorry. There is a list to certified arborists and certified providers of it that are local to the area. And that way it would allow residents to contact any of the kind of approved through the arborist contractors. There may be others out there, but through guidance from the county and others, we have posted the certified arborist list on the website.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to notices of motion. There aren't any notices of motion. Then moving on to items for future consideration, item 13, any items for future consideration? Then item 14.1 is approval of the bylaws. Can I have a mover and seconder, please, for that? Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ma Chapman, that the bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. 2022-042, appoint building inspector plans examiner. 2022-043, appoint zoning administrator, zoning compliance coordinator. All those in favor? That is carried. Confirmatory bylaw, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Cabral and Councillor Ma Chapman, that bylaw 2022-044 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on June 1, 2022, listed herein, be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? That is carried. And a mover and seconder to adjourn, please. Councillor Ma Chapman, Councillor Cabral. The regular meeting, the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 8:05 PM to meet again in regular meeting on June 15, 2022 at 6:30 PM. All those in favor? Is carried.